this brings me to the end of my presentation I've talked about. So this brings me to the end of the presentation. We have talked about. Second, you'd say, well, that was about it for now. We have talked about. That was about it for now. We have talked about. Okay. Then you go ahead and give them a small sentence of what you have actually talked about during the presentation. Okay, so to summarize, and then you go ahead. Or you say, let us sum up the main ideas. Let us sum up the main ideas. Or you'll say, so we have looked at, then you go ahead and give them a summary. And then you would say, here are the key points for today's presentation. Here are the key points of today's presentation. Okay, I'll just say, so that was the marketing strategy. In brief, we, so you'll say, that was the marketing strategy. In brief, we, then you go ahead and give them the summary you have talked about. Okay, so that is how you start giving a summary of your presentation to your audience. Let's look it up again. This brings me to the end of the presentation we have talked about. 2. That was about it for now. We talked about, you go ahead and give them the summary. To summarize, you go ahead. Let us sum up the main ideas, and then you go ahead. So we looked at, you go ahead. Here are the key points of today's presentation, and then you go ahead. That was the marketing strategy. In brief, we, then you go ahead and give a summary of your presentation. But that are some of the phrases that you use.